Today, learn why recognition beats discounts for loyalty and is less expensive to deliver. Discover an 8-visit activation sequence that converts first-timers into regulars, and master a seating and communication plan that shifts profits without adding new customers. Hello and welcome to the Bar Business Podcast, where we help bar owners increase profits, attract loyal guests, and simplify operations so you can avoid burnout and finally enjoy your life outside of your bar. I'm your host, Chris Schneider, the Bar Business Coach. So today on the Bar Business Podcast, we're diving back into something we've actually talked about a few times over the last couple months, which is guest retention and keeping regulars. I think for a lot of folks, kind of entered into a period where spending's getting a little tight. People are not necessarily going out as much. We've talked about how Gen Z is not drinking as much. And so it's becoming increasingly important in the hospitality business to maintain your regular guests. And we've talked before too about how regulars are going to represent hopefully a sizable chunk of your business, right? We want regulars to be about 80%, first timers to be about 20%. And yes, we want to convert those first timers into regulars, but we also want to take really, really good care of our regulars to make sure they stay regulars. So that's what we're going to go through today. We're going to talk a little bit about how to determine customer lifetime value. And I have a couple tricks there on how you might be able to get the data together in order to really pin that down. We're going to talk about a recognition system. Often with our regulars, it's more important to recognize them than it is to actually do anything special for them or give them a discount. We're going to talk about a regular first operating model that is going to really help illustrate how we can provide those regulars with a little bit of an extra enhanced experience to keep them coming back and make them feel like our bar is their bar, which is one of the goals in this business, right? Great regulars, they'll talk about my bar. Not that they own your bar, but you're the bar where they go to. You're where they hang out. So let's talk about how we get them there. We're going to talk about how to measure and optimize all of this, and then get into a bit of an implementation roadmap to help you grow your regular base and sustain your regulars, make them happier, and make them spend more money while they're in your bar. So to start off today, we're going to talk through all those things, but we're going to start with customer lifetime value. Now, customer lifetime value, it can be a very difficult thing to peg down. And one of the things about customer lifetime value that's difficult is if people spend cash, you don't have any clue who they were. But here's the thing. I think most of us realize this now. Cash is an ever declining portion of our business. So this is not necessarily what I'm about to say going to help you identify your cash regulars. Hopefully you know who those are, especially if they're the same old dude that you see every week. I think it's pretty easy to know who he is, or the same guy that comes in every day. It turns out, at least in my experience, a lot of our best regulars, the folks that are bellying up to the bar for happy hour every day, are our cash customers. So we probably already know who those are. But what's a lot harder to manage and to really understand is our regulars that are coming in late night when we're super busy, or our regulars that are coming in for food, or our lunch regulars even. A lot of times those folks are a lot harder to identify than our happy hour regulars. But the good thing about those folks is they tend to use credit cards. And because they use credit cards, guess what? Their name is probably in your sales reports. You can probably pull it out of your POS system. You know, if you use Toast, if you use Spot On, if you use any of these kind of regular POS systems, SkyTab, what have you, you can really see who your customers are because their names are on your credit card reports. Now, that might mean that you need to download those reports and kind of throw them together and see the frequency at which people come in. And you can probably do that in Google Sheets or Excel. But you have the data, you just have to figure out how to get there. Now, the one interesting thing is if you can get a list of all those transactions that happen, every credit card that gets closed out with the guest name, you can then sort by guest name. So you'll see that guest right up next to each other every time. And then you can look at frequency. You can compare guest check average to frequency. You can compare when people are coming in, right? If I see that, Jim Smith comes in every day, great. But maybe I don't recognize Jim Smith as a regular because he comes in every other Tuesday. And I just haven't put that pattern together. So this is a way that we can take that POS data and then determine who our regulars really are. Now, here's the interesting things about regulars. We talk a lot about bringing in those first-time guests and how to retain them, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today. But One of the things that's very true about regulars when you look across the industry, they tend to spend more money. Most of the time, if you can do this kind of analysis by using your credit card data that you have in your POS system, you'll find that your regulars not only come in more than a non-regular, which is kind of obvious, but they're going to come in frequently and they're going to spend more than someone just coming in off the street. Part of that, I think, is very easy to understand. Your regulars are socializing at your bar. They know other people at your bar. They're more likely to get in a conversation with somebody and stay for one more drink. They're less likely, in most cases, unless you have the guy that comes in every day and is a one and done, or every couple days is a one and done. Most of your regulars are not going to be one and dones. So that guest check average is going to go up. Now, that also means that while we want to turn everybody that comes in the door into a regular, we need to take damn good care of our regulars, because not only do they come in all the time, not only are they really paying most of our bills, they also spend more. So if we're thinking about effort put into a table and what that gives back to us as far as revenue, regulars are actually oftentimes the easier place to get more revenue. And when we dig into the data, some things that I always notice, because regulars spend more, you're making a higher margin on them, right? Because if you think about kind of your overhead for someone to sit at a table for an hour, when they spend more, less of that's going to overhead, more of that's going to the bottom line. Also, regulars are going to refer people to you, right? The better time a regular has, the more special they feel, the more likely they are to tell their friends that they feel special. So they're going to help you create more regulars when you take care of them. They're loyal to you. You need to be loyal to them. It's also very true, and something we don't think about much, easier to serve a regular than a first-time guest. First-time guests, they have questions. They want to know what all your cocktails are. They don't understand your menu. They're going to have questions about your menu. First-timers, you're more likely to have an issue where they order something and they don't like it, and then you have to remake it and go through that whole rigmarole. Regulars come in. I mean, heck, if you're a pretty simple regular, which I am most places where I've ever been a regular, because I kind of drink vodka. I've said that before. I'm a vodka rocks drinker. A lot of places where I've been a regular, that drink's on the bar before I get to my seat. And so regulars are more efficient for your business and spend more. So we want to make sure, right, that we're taking really good care of these folks. Now, one thing that's always important to look at is your regular ratio. And that's where we take all that data that I was talking about before, where we look at, okay, here's who spent this. I can see the credit cards. I can say, okay, this guy came in 8 times in the last 3 months, or 8 times in the last year, whatever it is. And then I can look at how many names on that list of credit cards only came in once, or only came in twice, or only came in once per quarter. And I can start to bucket those regulars and really understand what percentage of my business is regulars and what percentage isn't. Because just like you guys have heard me say plenty of times, 80% of your business should be regulars. That's a really healthy target. Now we have a method to measuring it. And we measure it by getting into that credit card data. And like I said, regulars are going to spend more, so that's why we really care here. So with regulars, one of the things that's really, really important is to recognize that they are regulars. Now, I know that sounds kind of funny, right? They're coming in all the time. They're spending money. I'm sure we see them, but we need to recognize that. We need to thank them. We need to show gratitude towards them. We need to ingratiate ourselves to them so that they continue to be regulars. And a lot of times with regulars, what we want to do is we want to throw them into a loyalty program. And I'm nothing against loyalty programs, right? I think loyalty programs are fantastic. And if you don't have loyalty programs, you probably should. But let's be honest. When you go out to a bar that's not your own, and you go to have a drink, do you care more about the fact that this is your 3rd visit so you get $2 off? Or your 10th visit so you get $10 off, or whatever that math is? Or do you care more about the bartender that says, oh, hey, it's wonderful to see you again. I know last time you were here, you were drinking a bunch of espresso martinis. Do you want one this time too? Which of those is going to be more important to you? $10 off, or somebody that actually remembers you, remembers what you drink, potentially remembers your name, and already has some familiarity with you? They recognize that you're a regular rather than just recognizing that you have a loyalty card and you get some money off. The thing is that that's going to build that emotional connection with folks. And emotional connection, if we're real honest, that's what drives this industry. So regulars want to be known. They don't want 10% off. You can give them 10% off. Again, not bashing loyalty programs entirely here. We can talk about loyalty programs a different day. But the bottom line is your regulars want to be known. They want to establish that emotional connection with your staff, with you, and with your brand. So, how do we build the infrastructure to be able to recognize our regulars in a way that's going to keep them coming back? Well, I like to look at it as three tiers. And you know what? These really don't cost that much. So, tier one, this is just basically using our POS. So, if we see people have a first time visit, right? If we have a system, especially if you're using a more of a restaurant system, if you're taking reservations and things, or if you have a list where you can see everybody when they come in, you're going to recognize that you've seen that credit card again. And ideally, we want our servers to know, hey, it's the third time these folks have been in. We've talked about it before. The first time somebody comes in, they may come back. The second time they come in, they may come back. The third time they come in, that's when you've really created a regular. So if we can remember when people have come in the third time, whether that's through a loyalty program, through a POS system, through reservation software, however that looks for your business, then we can really start to spend a little bit more time focusing on them, showing our gratitude, and making sure they come in over and over and over and over again in the future. One thing that's really great, and again, this is a little bit more of a restaurant side than a bar side type trick, but if you're using a reservation system, something like OpenTable, it allows you to keep notes. So you can not only track how often somebody comes in, but you can track notes about them. You can remember their order history. You know, most of us that are in the dive bar neighborhoods bar side of things, we're never going to have that tech. But we got really smart bartenders that know how to remember a face and a drink. That works too, right? You can use the tech, you can do it old school and just do it in your brain. But when you see people more than twice, you need to try to remember who they are. You need to try to remember what they order. You need to try to remember if there's anything specific about what they like, because that's how you keep them coming back over and over and over. Now, what do we want our servers to do to say to our guests, hey, we recognize you? Well, we can make welcome back scripts. That's all right. The better thing to do, though, is just to use people's names and be human. And really think about that for a second. Be human. Because a lot of times when we go out to eat today, you go to a corporate restaurant, you get a corporate greeting, you know, and it might as well be like Office Space and shenanigans for the value of the greeting, right? You know, hi, I'm so-and-so and welcome to blah, blah, blah. Just corporate bullshit. So a lot of what we can do is just be like, hey, Jim, how are you today? It's great to see you again. Do you want this drink that you had last time? Or what can I do for you today? Or, hey, I know you kind of like this and we have this going on. I think you'd really enjoy this beverage or you'd really enjoy this food. Be human. And I think it's increasingly important today because we see kiosks popping up in quick service. We see a lot of AI coming around, right? You got these restaurants and bars now, you call them up on the phone and they have AI answering the phone. Now, is AI answering the phone better than the phone ringing 20 times and then I hang up because I'm tired of waiting for the bartender to pick up the damn phone? Well, yeah. Yeah, of course I'd rather have AI answer the phone than that. But most people, if you think about it from the other end, you're a customer, you call in, you just want to talk to a human. So be human, because everything around us is taking humanity away from people. In hospitality, we have this wonderful gift where we can give humanity back to people by focusing on that person-to-person connection between our team and our guests. So we want to encourage our staff to do that. And we can do that through things like recognition programs for our team as well, right? If we're tracking our regulars, we know who's taking care of people, we know who's building the most regulars, we can incentivize. We can give bonuses off of that. We can give people experiences on our team, right? Off of that, we can reward them for generating lasting business for us. Because quite frankly, out of everything that a server or a bartender does, that creation of a lasting business, that bringing a guest in and keeping them there is probably the most valuable thing they do. Now, the other thing to always keep in mind, people like to say they know the owner, right? You go by a place, you know, you say, oh yeah, I like to go in there. I know the staff. Great. You go to a different place, you go, oh yeah, my buddy owns that place. It's a great bar. You know, he takes great care of people, blah, blah, blah. People want to know you if you're the owner. So if your ownership is being stuck in an office crunching numbers, which trust me, I love being stuck in offices crunching numbers. I actually like being stuck in the office crunching numbers more than I like people. But part of your job as a bar owner is to be a politician, is to go out, press the flesh, shake hands, meet people, and build that personal connection yourself. Particularly anyone that's been in more than 5-10 times, you should know them. Or at least they should know you. right? Sometimes as the owner, especially if you're there and you're working all shifts, you're trying to know all your regulars, and you might have 500 of them, you might have 1,000 of them. That's hard to know them all, but they should all know you. Always. They should all know you. And one of the best ways to do that is to handwrite people notes. One of the things that I've said on here before is, like a lot of these regulars, especially in the bar business, we see a lot of, single men, single women that are older. They may not have a lot of family in town. Some of the brightest part of their day is coming to the bar, seeing your team, hanging out with your other regulars. And so we want to encourage that. Again, we want to be human, and we want to write them notes, give them a card, keep a card to give them on their birthday. It's a wonderful thing to do. So make sure you're being human, but as an owner, you're not just expecting your staff to have a connection with their regulars. You need to have a connection with all of the regulars because they're your regulars. That's your business. That is one of the best things you can do to keep your business making money is to make sure there are people there that are taken care of. They know you, they like you, they trust you. And really, something I think is a really good move. If you are tracking regulars in a way where you know exactly how long they've been in, or hey, this guy's coming a bunch for the last couple months, write him a note, right? And if you want to do a loyalty thing, say, hey, I threw my business card in with this note. On the back of it, I wrote, 50% off, one free drink, whatever the heck you want to write. But don't just discount the loyalty through a loyalty program. Yeah, you can do that. Again, I'm not hating on loyalty programs here, but I am saying a much better, much more personalized approach is to write that person a letter with your own hand, not type it up and sign it, but actually freaking sit there and write. Now, I don't care how bad your writing is. No one cares. It's the fact that you took the effort to write. It's the fact that you've become more human, and then throw a discount in with that. If we're really good at tracking regulars, if you do have a system that allows you to track who these people are pretty easily, after about 10, 20 visits, 10 visits, they're definitely a regular. After 20, they may be a VIP, right? Depending on how often your regulars come in, you can gauge what that is for you. But generally speaking, if you've seen somebody 20 times, you better be treating them like a VIP. Otherwise, there might be a bar down the street that's going to treat them better. And when you really think about this, recognizing them, writing a note, making sure your staff is taking care of them, everything I've said, except for a few throwaway comments about, yeah, you could give them a discount, or yeah, you could have a loyalty program. This costs you time, not money. There's zero financial reason why you couldn't start doing this tomorrow. So now let's talk a little bit about a regular first operating model. And when I say regular first operating model, do I mean you should treat your regulars better than everybody else that walks in your door? Actually, yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Make those folks feel special. Be human. Impress good hospitality upon them. Keep them coming back. Now, there are a couple ways we can do this. If we know, if we take reservations, make sure your best tables are saved for your regulars. If you're more of a club and you have some VIP spaces, save some of those VIP booths. Don't sell them to whoever wants to off the streets. Keep them for your regulars. The new folks you can put in with newer team members. Your team that's been there a long time that has these relationships with the regulars, make sure they're the ones taking care of your regulars. Allow your team and your regulars to build a personal connection, and then you go and build that personal connection as well. But we want to make sure that we are taking care of our regulars as best as we can, because yes, we need to get new guests in. Yes, we need to turn those new guests into regulars. But the regulars are how the bills get paid. And again, they're going to spend more money. So per unit, per hour in a seat in your bar, your regulars are always going to make you more money than your first-time guests. Now, we did talk about doing secret menus at one point earlier this year, and hey, have some kind of, password secret menu type items. Guess who that helps? Your regulars. So if you want to dive into that, you can look back. There was an episode, I think it was about 2 months ago, that we talked on that. But do a secret menu. Do passwords on menu items and only let your regulars know. Yeah, they will spread that around, which is what you want them to do because that'll help you make more regulars. But give your regulars an experience that's a little bit different. If you're doing email lists or a text list, keep one of those for your super regulars or your really good regulars or just your regulars in general, and give those folks different information, different coupons, different options, different benefits for keeping your lights on. Really take care of them. So anytime you have an email list, a text list, whatever, however you're distributing things out, make sure you have a separate one for your really good regulars where you can take extra good care of them and give them a little bit more of a personalized connection. And when you do that, when you're sending those items, use some exclusive language, right? We always talk about being inclusive today and how we talk and how we do things. No, with our regulars, we want to be exclusive. Before we tell anybody else what's going on, I want you to be aware of this, right? Or we only have a limited number of this item available, and we wanted to give you, as our very good regulars, the first chance to get your hands on one of these before the general public. Things like that. Seriously. It'll make them feel special. It'll make them like you more. It will make them spend more money in your bar. There's no reason not to do it. But however you decide this list, make sure you keep it tight, right? We don't want to have a super regular list where we're giving them exclusive offers that, everybody and their brother's on. You want to have that list tight, and you want to have it based around how much they spend and how much they come in. Again, what that looks like is going to be a little bit different establishment by establishment, but it needs to be targeted towards really the top folks that are legitimately paying your utilities, paying your rent, keeping the lights on, all of that good stuff. Now, how do we measure and optimize the system? Well, a few things I would look at once we were trying to really take good care of our regulars and to see if is this working. The first one is, do we see guest frequency increase? So if I know Jane and Bob come in Wednesday once, maybe twice a month, and I start focusing on them and giving them some personalized attention, now are Jane and Bob coming in on Wednesday every week? Or maybe I start seeing them on some Mondays too, right? Or Mike that's comes in every Monday, or half the Saturdays he's coming and he's partying. He's a big partier. He comes in, he drinks, he parties all the time. Can I get him to come in every Saturday? So we want to look at if we can identify those regular guests, can we increase their frequency? That shows that we're taking good care of them and that our guest regular recognition programs are working to help establish that relationship and make them come in more frequently. The other thing I would track is check averages. If we have this VIP list of regulars and we're using our POS data to get there, we should be able to figure out the check average for that list. Is that check average going up or down? That's a good place to start. But a better thing to do is say, okay, this is my regulars check average. This is my check average across the entire company. Regulars, first timers, everybody lumped together. But this is my special regulars. This is their guest check average. This is everyone else. This is their guest check average. Does the ratio between those two change? Let's say your guest check average for non-regulars or for everyone across the whole store is $100. And your guest check average for your super regulars is $200. Right? If your super regulars go to $250, but everyone goes to $150, it's still $100 difference between those two numbers. But if we see, okay, our check average across everybody went up to 125, but our check average against this small group of regulars that we're taking really good care of went from 200 to 250. Well, we had a better increase among that group. We've pushed that guest check average up among our regulars. Now, why is that important? Let's just think that through for a second. They come in a lot. So if I can make you spend more and come in more, right? Increase frequency, increase guest check average among that group, that's going to be a lot more revenue. Your expenses are hopefully already paid for. So all of that past prime margin is just flowing into your pocket. It's a really easy way to up your profit. I mean, I shouldn't say easy. This is all hard, right? It's the bar business. Everything's not that easy. But this is a really good way to raise that profit. Another thing I would always look at is, okay, how many people are we taking from, 2 visits, 3 visits to 2-3 visits a month, right? How many people are we getting down that path of first timer or some timer to new regular to frequent regular? It's a really important thing to track because that's going to tell us a lot about our customer acquisition, a lot about how well we're doing when we have the opportunity to make a new regular. Are we actually doing it? Because you'd be amazed when you actually pay attention how many of those you are fumbling. Now, obviously, not every guest that walks in the door has the potential to be a new regular, right? If I'm going to your bar in San Francisco and I live in Indianapolis, well, I'm probably never going to be a regular of yours, right? Because I just don't live there. But if it's somebody in the neighborhood, you should be trying to figure out, okay, have I made this person a regular? Can I make this person a regular? And then once I do, am I retaining them as a regular? right? That retention, to the extent that you can, look through your POS data and measure it. Now, the last piece I'm going to throw at you here is kind of an idea on how to get this done. So we want to take our POS system. We want to look at those guest check reports. We want to capture their names. We want to capture their spend, right? And that's probably going to take a week or two. I mean, this is a lot of digging through data. If you ever hire an intern, this is a great intern job. And quite frankly, you could probably get AI to do this pretty well nowadays. But dig through that data, right? A lot of it can just be a sort. You put some CSVs together, you hit sort, and it'll at least bucket it by name or sort by name, and then you can look at what people spend. But essentially what you want to put together is a list of name, visit frequency, check average. And from there, you can do all this other analysis. Once you have that done, you want to launch a regulars only, either a text club, an email club, right? Whatever. It doesn't have to be called club. That's kind of a dumb word that was in my notes. But create a communication channel that you're using to reach out to these folks. And if you don't have their contact info, try to get it. And then work with yourself and your team to develop really a relationship building program. And if you want to talk relationship building programs, obviously go down, schedule a strategy session with me. I would be happy to talk about ways to help build that relationship and that human-to-human connection that is going to drive your business forward. Now, once we have those programs in place, that communication method, and we've really worked on getting a regular relationship program put together, we probably want to pair that with some sort of server incentive. So you build more relationships, you generate more regulars, you get a little bit of a bump, because I think that's fair, right? Our servers, our bartenders, I've said this before, they're essentially commission salespeople. So hey, guess what? If they're doing really good at sales, we probably should reward them for that. And then you want to take, probably a couple months, optimize that. Learn how that system is working. Watch those numbers. Look for the KPIs I was talking about before. Where do you see check averages going up? Do you see visit frequencies going up? Do you see check average compared to everyone's check average among your regulars going up? Right? See what works, see what doesn't. Try a whole bunch of different things. Because I'll be real honest with you here. When it comes to regulars, what's going to work for me in Southern Indiana and what's going to work for some guy in upstate New York and what's going to work for some guy in San Francisco and what's going to work for some guy in, middle of nowhere in Iowa, or what's going to work for some guy in Florida, it's all going to be a little bit different. So you got to try different things and then just measure it. But at the bottom line of all of this, the single most important thing in all of today, create a human connection. Meet people at that human level. Develop relationships that keep them coming back so that you're not just a bar they go to. You're just not the spot they hang out. That's their bar. When they talk to their friends, they talk about going to my bar. That's what you want. It takes human connection. But we can use data to help build that human connection. And then that human connection can turn into extra points on our bottom line. That about wraps it up for today. If you enjoyed today's insights, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a review. If you are ready to take your bar to the next level, schedule a strategy session with me by clicking the link in the show notes below. Until next time, have a great day, and we will talk again later.